Why do some dogs never bark? The secret that few know. Did you know that there are dogs that go their entire lives without barking once? That's right, not a single sound, not a single warning, not a single woof woof. But why? Is there something wrong with them, or is there a secret hidden behind this intriguing behavior? To begin with, we need to demystify something. Barking is not the only way dogs communicate. While many of them bark to express emotions, warn of danger, or simply get attention, there are breeds and individuals that prefer silence as a rule. And the reason goes far beyond genetics. Of course, some breeds, such as the Basenji, are famous for being silent. But what few know is that, even among noisy breeds, there are dogs that simply see no reason to bark. It's as if they choose to live in complete silence. And do you know the most curious thing? This could be a trait of superior intelligence. These dogs analyze the environment, assess the risks, and only speak out when absolutely necessary. And here comes the most surprising part. Many of these silent dogs have such a deep emotional connection with their owners that they can communicate with just their gaze or subtle gestures. Amazing, isn't it? But it's not all about choice or intelligence. Some dogs may not bark due to past trauma. An animal that has been mistreated or constantly repressed may associate barking with something negative and therefore avoids making sounds. This is a sad reality, but one that we can change with love and patience. Now, before we finish, here's the most intriguing detail. Did you know that there are dogs that don't bark because they were bred to do so? For example, in feudal Japan, Shiba Inu dogs were trained to be silent during hunts, ensuring that they didn't alert their prey. Have you ever stopped to think that a dog's silence can be more intriguing than a bark? Many believe that all dogs need to bark, but the truth is that some simply don't, and the reason may surprise you. First, let's talk about an interesting detail. Dogs that don't bark may have evolved that way to adapt to specific situations. In ancient villages, for example, silent dogs were more valued because they didn't attract predators near their homes. Can you imagine how useful this trait could have been? Now, here's something that few people know. The environment in which a dog lives directly influences its vocal behavior. Dogs that grow up in quiet places, with little external stimulation, tend to bark less. It's as if the silence of the environment shapes their personality. And there are also those dogs that communicate in other ways. Some growl, whine, or even talk with their bodies. That's right, they learn to use facial expressions, ear positions, and even tail movement to convey what they feel. A true canine language that goes beyond barking. Another fascinating fact is that some dogs, even within breeds known for barking a lot, simply choose not to make noise. Researchers believe that these animals may have a more accurate perception of their surroundings, understanding when silence is most effective. What if I told you that a dog's silence can be a sign of trust? Dogs that feel completely safe around their owners don't feel the need to bark. They know that there is no danger and that their presence is enough to establish a connection. Have you ever imagined that a dog's silence can be as powerful as a bark? While most people associate dogs with the classic woof woof sound, the truth is that silence is also a form of communication and often carries surprising secrets. Some people believe that the silence of certain dogs is a sign that something is wrong. However, in many cases, it is simply a natural characteristic or a response to the environment in which they live. For example, dogs that live in extremely peaceful places may develop a calmer behavior, where barking is simply not necessary. They realize that the world around them is already in balance, and they don't need to break this tranquility. Another interesting point is how silence may be linked to the evolutionary history of some breeds. While some dogs were selected to bark as a way of alerting their owners, others were valued for exactly the opposite, for being discreet and avoiding attracting unnecessary attention. Imagine a hunting dog that, instead of scaring off its prey with barking, manages to approach silently, ensuring the success of the group. But what about when silence is not just a genetic issue? The dog's upbringing also plays a fundamental role. Puppies that grow up in environments where barking is constantly discouraged can learn to communicate in other ways. It's as if they were saying, if barking is not welcome, I will find another way to express myself. And the most incredible thing is that what's more intriguing is that these dogs often become masters at reading and responding to human body language. Even more intriguing is the fact that some silent dogs develop an almost meditative demeanor. They seem to take in everything around them with a level of attention that is almost disconcerting. Have you ever noticed dogs that sit quietly, observing, as if they were analyzing the world? It's almost as if silence is a conscious choice, a sign of wisdom and self-control. Now, let's talk about health. In some cases, silence can be related to specific conditions, such as vocal cord problems or diseases that affect the ability to bark. However, these cases are rare, and most of the time, silence is completely normal. In fact, silent dogs are often healthier than we think, since excessive barking can even cause throat inflammation and stress. Another fascinating thing about dogs that don't bark is how they can use silence as a survival strategy. In dangerous situations, absolute silence can be the difference between going unnoticed or attracting the attention of a predator. This ability to stay silent is something that may have been inherited from their wild ancestors, who needed to be stealthy to survive. And of course, a dog's silence can be a direct reflection of their relationship with their owner. Dogs who feel a strong emotional connection with their owners often don't need to bark to communicate. A look, a nod, or even a slight touch of a paw can be enough to convey everything they want to say. It's as if the bond is so deep that words or barking become unnecessary. Now think about it. How can silence shape a dog's personality? In many cases, dogs that don't bark develop other social skills. They can become more attentive, more observant, and even more expressive in their actions. It's as if silence is a tool to perfect other forms of interaction. Finally, there's something almost poetic about the fact that a dog's silence can be as powerful as its voice. It teaches us that not all communication needs to be audible, and that sometimes, what is not said in words or barking can be even more meaningful. So the next time you see a dog who rarely barks, remember, there is a universe of possibilities and stories behind that silence. Is he watching you, understanding every detail around him, or simply living in a peace that doesn't need to be broken? The answer may be as surprising as the silence itself.